A little late, but cheer up. We will answer questions, but first we were going to give information about a video of a potent American who reflects on the damage caused by inequality, the lack of awareness of what is caused when a lot of capital is accumulated in a few hands, when few have much, and many have little. That in the end causes ungovernability, confrontation, violence. And that is what he exposes. And the important thing is that a man with a lot of money does it. Without a doubt he is a businessman with a social dimension, with a civic dimension. This is very important because there is a new current in the business sectors of the world, very oriented to this purpose, to ensure reasonable profits, which are not excessive, that do not mean affecting national economies and that does not mean destroying the territory, the environment, that fair treatment can be given to workers, inclusive, the one that is considered that the entrepreneur is fundamental in a society, that it is necessary to create wealth because you cannot distribute what you do not have, that you have to create wealth and that, once you have already a considerable amount of capital, the inheritance is donated, delivered to the same company. That is very interesting. It is a process of re-education. It can be said that it is naive to think that the one who has will worry about others. There is the saying that money calls money, that it is very difficult for people to let go of material ambitions, but it happens, and this is a good example, in addition, with a logic that is proven. When a lot of capital is accumulated in a few hands and the population is abandoned, and there is a lot of poverty, there is always confrontation. That is a failed model, that is what happened in the Porfiriato, that's why the revolution. And that is what happened now, after 36 years of neoliberal politics. People said enough, because they dedicated themselves to looting, stealing, a lot of wealth was accumulated in a few hands and abandoned to the people. Fortunately, the change in Mexico has been carried out in a peaceful manner, without violence, with governance, and so we will continue. But let's see if you have a fragment. It's a bit extensive, but we're just going to try it. Video projection. Nick Hanauer, entrepreneur, English to Spanish interpretation. You probably don't know me, but I am of that 1% who listen and read around and under any reasonable definition, I am a plutocrat. Tonight I would like to speak directly to other plutocrats, to my people, because it is time we all had a talk. Like most plutocrats, I am also a capitalist, proud and without complexes. I have founded, co-founded, or financed more than 30 companies in various industries. I was the first non-family investor in Amazon.com. I co-founded a company called Aquantive, which we sold to Microsoft at $6,400 million US. With my friends we have a bank. I tell you this to show that my life is like that of most plutocrats. But let's be honest, I'm not the smartest person they've ever met, of course, I'm not the one who works the most, I was a mediocre student, I don't know how to write a line of code. In truth, my success is the result of spectacular luck, cradle, circumstances, and acting on time. But I'm pretty good at a couple of things. One is that I have unusually high risk tolerance. The other is that I am good, I have good intuition for what will happen in the future. I think that intuition about the future is the essence of good entrepreneurship. What do I see in the future? They will ask. I see gallows, angry mobs with gallows, because while plutocrats live beyond the dreams of greed, the other 99% of our fellow citizens are falling more and more. If the trend continues, more than 1% rich will have more than 30% of the national income, while 50% of the bottom will have only 6%. As you can see, the problem is not to have some inequality. Certain inequality is necessary for a high-performance capitalist democracy. The problem is that inequality today is at record highs and is getting worse day by day. And if health, power, and income continue to be concentrated at the top of the pyramid, our society will move from a capitalist democracy to a neo-feudal society like that of the 18th century in France. That was France before the revolution and the mobs with the gallows. But I have a message for my fellow plutocrats and billionaires and anyone who lives locked in a bubble. Wake up, because if we don't do something to correct the obvious economic inequalities in our society, the gallows will come to us, because no free and open society can withstand this increase in economic inequality. It has not happened, there are no examples. Show me an inequality society and I will show you a police state. The gallows will come for us if we do not address this. It is not a matter of whether it will occur, but when it will occur. And it will be terrible when they come for everyone. I say that rising economic inequality is highly silly and ultimately self-destructive. The increase in inequality not only increases our risk of hanging, but is terrible for business. End video. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. Well, that is it. It is very complete. It is a synthesis, but reflection is important. We in Mexico, because of the corruption that prevailed, there was a monstrous economic and social inequality, and that is what has broken everything, that is the main cause of our social problems. So, now that the changes have begun, we will ensure, within the framework of the law, that there is a better distribution of income, that there is not so much economic and social inequality. And we have to get it with everyone's participation. The government plays an important role, but also society and the business sector. The government can set the budget-oriented example, for example, to those who need it most. That is what we are doing, caring for everyone, listening to everyone, respecting everyone, but giving preference to humble people, to poor people, who are the ones who receive the most. That is an important part. The other is the one that has to do with the attitude of the private sector, which should of course try to do business, that is its main function, but at the same time seek reasonable profits and that the legal framework is respected, that taxes be paid. All that helps a lot. and society as a whole, that we all contribute to denounce corruption, not be an agent of corruption and be responsible, as they are and must be recognized. The majority of workers in Mexico, who comply, work, receive up to few salaries, and thanks to them the country moves forward. This is an interesting topic to discuss, because then we just stay in the effects and do not analyze the causes, and it is necessary to know why the crisis in Mexico. It is very easy to say from an information medium, especially if it is a foreign information medium, that there is a crisis without having the background. In general, these media were dedicated to applaud the regime that produced this monstrous economic and social inequality, and never warned that social decomposition was going to occur and that insecurity and violence were going to be caused, all that we are suffering. Also tell all people that the transformation plan is being applied despite all the obstacles, all the problems we have to face. We keep moving forward. And I reaffirm that much has been achieved in a short time. I could say that the bases of the transformation are already there, but the work is still to be completed. That is why I am proposing that it will take us another year and then the transformation work will be finished in another year. And it will be very difficult. I do not like the word reversible to use it, to say that it is not going to be able to go back, because in history there are always changes. It is also even healthy, but it is going to cost the conservatives work to back down everything that has been achieved. Of that I am absolutely sure. They will not be able to, because we are going to cement well. They are new conditions, new policy, and it will be very difficult to return to opprobrium, which meant the neoliberal period, the politics of pillage, looting, the abandonment of the people. It will be very difficult. And that's the purpose, that's why the rush too. Why do I make this known? Because lately we have faced difficult situations, but this is not going to divert us. On the contrary, in crises, even if they are transitory, positions are more defined. For example, all this from the violence of Culiacan to the unfortunate acts of the family that is murdered, woke up, encouraged the authoritarian cares, of the use of force, all this that led at the time to declare war on drug trafficking. At that time it was not even like that, there was no diagnosis of what was happening, it was a determination that was decided thinking that legitimacy would be acquired in that way. The election had just passed and it was like a spectacular blow, that is to say, this is going to please people, thinking that there is a sector of the population with authoritarian cares, of those who want to solve everything with the use of force. Yesterday we talked about that, and it was a failure to make that decision, nothing was achieved. As that strategy fails, because neither way they say it did not fail, we say, we will no longer continue along the same trite path as always. In its own terms, we are talking about a new paradigm to face the problem of insecurity and violence, which is based on addressing the causes that cause insecurity and violence, that is, that there is well-being. We start. As there are inertias, and not only that, crime groups, cases like Culiacan and now, I repeat, of the murders of the Lebaron families, arise again, like the cry of the frogs, we need strength, we need violence, we need war. Well, until that, which is unfortunate, helps the definition because it was lived in a kind of alienation. You can see that never in the neoliberal period there was talk of addressing the causes that caused insecurity and violence. You can never see it in the speech. Everything was to solve it with coercive measures, to solve the problem with more severe laws, with prisons, with a hard hand, to face violence with violence, and the most sinister characters handled the issue of security with that conception. Now this unfortunate situation arises and they return. A great launch. In conclusion, we will not change the strategy, we will continue to address the causes that cause insecurity and violence. We are sure that it is the most effective and most humane way to face the problem of insecurity and violence, what we are doing. We are convinced of that. 2. We are not going to use violence to deal with violence. We are absolutely convinced that peace and tranquility are fruits of justice. And we respect those who think otherwise, but we come to the government with that proposal. It is even written in the National Development Plan clearly. It is not an occurrence, it is something that we have analyzed for a long time. We will continue to act in the same way. And thank many people who are giving us their support and confidence. Thank you, because you need to move forward with the transformation and face all adversities. And we are doing well, that there is no doubt that we are doing very well and that we are going to overcome all this that is an inheritance of a failed policy, which will never be reapplied in the country, ever again.